Construction Big Breakfast, where we give you a hearty serving of insider tips and business strategies to help fuel your day so you can thrive in the construction industry. Now, here's your host, Brendan Morahan.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the next Construction Big Breakfast podcast. We're delighted this morning that I'm joined by Katie-George Dunlevy. Katie-George and I met briefly at the Irish Post Awards at the end of last year. And at those awards where Katie-George received an award for outstanding contribution to sport, the discussion came up about sponsorship. And as some of our viewers know, we do like, from a CSR point of view, to support charities and people that we think are deserving. And I think by the end of this podcast, you'll understand why we thought that Katie-George was deserving. Casey, could I just ask you maybe to briefly introduce yourself from your perspective? Take us up to how you got to the Irish Post Awards very, very briefly, and then I'd like to dig into some of the detail thereafter.
Okay. So I got the Sports Star Award for 2019 at the Irish Post Awards last year. It was actually for me and my pilot Eve for our success of 2019. We became world champions for the third time in the time trial, and we won silver in the road race at the World Championships on the roads. And I'm a paracyclist. I'm partially sighted. I race on the back of a tandem. I'm known as the Stoker. I ride with a pilot who's fully sighted at the front of the bike, and it's a team sport. Myself and my pilot Eve McChrystal from Dundalk, we became Paralympic champions in Rio 2016, and we won silver in the road race. And since then, we've become three-time world champion in the time trial, and we won silver last year in the road race. And we were double world champion. So 2017, 2018, we were double world champions.
Yeah.
And we were aiming for Tokyo, which was this year. But now it's changed to next year.
Yeah.
So a lot of changes happened recently.
Introduction, because we can't just gloss over everything you've just referred to. There's so much more detail that I'd like to go into, if you don't mind. But maybe firstly, as this is the Construction Big Breakfast, I traditionally always have my porridge in the morning with some raisins and banana washed down with a nice coffee. But more importantly, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had what I always have, and that's porridge.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I always start my day with, whether I'm training or not, I always have porridge. And I usually have around 60 grams of oats. I have a banana. I would have maple syrup, fruit, sometimes yogurt, sometimes peanut butter, and some seeds, nuts. So it's and milk. So it's quite a substantial breakfast, and it's usually 700 calories in that bowl.
Right.
Porridge. Yeah.
That's encouraging. So I could be an Olympic champion yet.
You start with
the porridge.
Day, right? Yeah.
No, but let me go into a lot more detail about your successes, Katie-George, because I'll be honest, I'm a great sports fan, but cycling hasn't been one of them. But obviously, since we got to know you and we've been supporting you in a small way, I've been fascinated by your journey, really, no pun intended, because you actually didn't start off in cycling. You were in rowing originally, from what I understand.
That's right. I rowed for about 8 years. When I was at university, my second year, I got a call to ask to try out para rowing, which is it's called now. And so I kind of was thrown into the deep end of rowing and representing Great Britain. 2004, 2005, became world champion in rowing. And then I carried on rowing until 2010, 2011. Right. And after the rowing, I got into cycling in 2011.
But how? You don't just get into it.
You don't just get into it. Well, I was in the Great Britain squad for a number of years, and after my success, I actually had a lot of injuries, and I had a lot of setbacks. Because of that, I kind of lost support, but I carried on training. I carried on turning up for the trials year after year, and I was rowing at my local rowing club in Maidenhead. I moved to Maidenhead actually after university to pursue rowing. It was as they had a good rowing squad, women's rowing squad. So I was there training every day, and I was aiming to, my aim after becoming world champion in 2004, 2005 was to aim to go to Beijing Paralympics. It was the first time that para rowing was going to be at a Paralympics, and that was kind of my goal. And it wasn't meant to be. I wasn't successful in selection for the World Championships, let alone to go to the Paralympics in 2008. And but I carried on. I still was so determined to get selected for the World Championships every year, and then I was aiming, kind of had the eye on 2012 London Paralympics, as it was like a home games.
Of course.
But so I was turning up every year for the trials, and I was losing. I wasn't getting selected. And
can I just interrupt there? You said you didn't get the support. In what sense?
I think once I got injured, and and my seat as it kind of was taken, I wasn't supported in terms of coaching or anything. I had to do my own thing with the club. So the centre for, at the time, para rowing was in London Regatta Centre in the Docklands in East London. So I travelled from there for university. I travelled from Southampton to London nearly every weekend while I was doing my degree, which wasn't great timing. I kind of had another focus instead of my studies, but I kind of fell in love with that, and I loved it. So and it was just something that I really wanted. So I travelled up from Southampton to London every weekend for training, then did the trials, and after, in 2006, the World Championships were in Dorney, and I got injured 4 weeks beforehand, and my seat was taken by the sub, and they went on to win the World Championships and get world records. But after that, it was just really hard to get back into that system. There was just no seat for me there, and I had to just then, after university, I moved to Maidenhead, and I was just kind of rowing there just with the club, but trying to still trial out against the people that were already in the Great Britain squad. So I was kind of, but it didn't, I still had that drive in me, and I just gave everything I could, but it just wasn't meant to be, I don't think. And then in 2010, I heard that Ireland were getting a para rowing team together for the World Championships, and then for, I think, looking towards London 2012. And as I was eligible, as my dad's from Donegal, I contacted the coach and said I'm eligible to ride for Ireland. I've rowed for a number of years, and they were kind of delighted and said, come over to Cork. So I flew over to Cork a number of times and trained with them, and then I went for the. Did
you meet up with the lads from Skibbereen?
That's right. Well, yeah, I never met them actually, no. And but that was the base. It was the same lake that they went out training, and where the rowing base is. So I was there, and I was there in the winter and the spring. And they also came over to England. There's a few of us that were based in, one athlete, she was based in London. I was based in Maidenhead, so they came to our clubs as well, and we trained out of our clubs in England. And in the trials in 2011, I missed out on selection for the World Championships by like 1%. I was told, and at that stage I was just I just think it was the end for me. I just couldn't take it anymore, mentally and physically. I was just done. I still had that drive in me, but just I think that was it for rowing. But at that time, when they did tell me that I wasn't successful in getting selected, they said that the paracycling coaches were interested in me trying out cycling.
Okay.
So that was the start, really, for cycling for me. It took the coach a couple of months to persuade me to go over to Dublin for the testing, because I think I was just so distraught with the rowing, and I just had needed a break actually from sport. Full stop, in a way, not completely. I was still active. I've been always active, and that's actually been so important for me to be active since I was a child. But just that system, I just kind of thought, oh no, I just need a bit of time. And I didn't realise cycling was an elite sport I could do on a tandem. I didn't realise there was World Championships and it was in the Paralympic Games. I didn't know. But I did go over in August 2011. I went over to Dublin and did some testing, and I met the coaching, and they said, after doing a ramp test, the coach said, we would like you and there's another girl from Ireland. She'd been racing on the solo bike for Ireland. She'd never been on a tandem, but they said we would like you and Louise to represent Ireland at the World Championships in 6 weeks' time.
Wow.
I was a bit like, oh, you haven't seen me on a bike yet. Actually out on a bike. And they said, from what we've seen and what we've read, we believe you'll be great. So that was just like someone had belief in me, and I was just kind of going, do you know what, this is a great opportunity. You can't turn it down.
So the physique,
threw in my head, I just went for it.
Technically, they'd be very different, but presumably the physique needs similar attributes for both sports.
Yeah, I think physically it's very similar. You see a lot of people go from rowing to cycling, cycling to rowing.
Yeah.
But what's really similar, and I found out straight away, is I did it when I was thrown in at the deep end of cycling, as I was in the rowing. I did a 10-mile time trial after a couple of weeks, and I was just like, this is so similar to rowing in terms of the long head races in rowing where they were 20-30 minutes long, and it was just that kind of stamina and the strength, which is really important. It's similar, kind of crosses over, but also that mental, it's not mental toughness and stuff, but it's that drive and commitment. You need to put a lot of hours into rowing as you do into cycling, so they kind of just crossed over in that way.
So that was obviously a pivotal moment, and I'm really looking forward to then discussing what came thereafter. But just to draw a pause there, you mentioned several times that you had adversity, but you still had the drive within you. How much of that was personal drive, and how much were you supported by family, friends, coaches, people around you?
I think it's very much individual.
Right.
Part of it for me, it has to come from yourself. No one else is going to make you do it or decide for you. You have to do that yourself. But of course, that support around you is really important, that support network. So, the coaches in Ireland saying, we can believe you're going to be good. That was, okay, that's important. And putting in place for me to start the cycling out, to get me going. So I was able to race at the World Championships in that 6 week time. And then my parents supported me fully, and they always have. And that's always been there, and that's very important as well. So that team around you, you can have all the drive you want, but you need to have that support network around you. It's very important.
Yeah, sure. So then you're now a cyclist. You need a new machine, and you need someone to cycle with. How did that all come about then?
Yeah, it's kind of going from one team sport to another, but it's just the two of you. So it's as I said, I went to the World Championships, and I got a decent enough result to kind of carry on in the squad for Ireland, in the paracycling squad, in an aim to go to London a year later. So I actually competed in the London Paralympics, just a year of cycling.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, so it was just, so from going, if I went 2 years before that, and I was at that time when I was trying to get selected for rowing, and I was just rowing with, not just rowing with my club. That was an amazing experience in itself, but just that, I kind of didn't know if it was going to happen. And then if someone said you'll be racing in London Paralympics in a different sport, wouldn't have believed it for the world, But so I went to London, and I was still new to tandem racing at that stage, so it was an experience and an exposure for me. But I worked so hard leading up to it with another pilot. So I had actually, from the pilot I had at the first World Championships in September in 2011, when it came to London, I had another pilot who came on board.
Why was
9
that?
months together, because she got injured. The female rider I was with, she wasn't able to carry on. So I got Sandra Fitzgerald for 9 months leading up to London, and we both worked really hard, and we both didn't want to make up the numbers, even though we were kind of new pairing. We wanted to do the best we could, and it was the races that we had international leading up to London, and the races in London just gave me such fire in my belly. When we were 5th in London, 3/5 in the 7th, I just saw the others on the podium, and I was kind of going, I believed that I could get there, and that's what I wanted to do. So when I came home from London, I was like, right, the next 4 years I'm going to work towards Rio, and I want to medal. And I had that drive still from rowing, just channeled into another sport.
But how, you can't, as you said several times, you can't do that yourself. So you had the drive, but you need to then be aligned with other people who have similar drive, both nationally, in the sport itself, and actually your partner. How did that come about?
Yeah, and well, So Sandra, who raced in London, unfortunately, the year after she left as well. So that's the difficult thing with tandem racing. You need to find two people to work really consecutively for years together, because it's such a team sport. It's not just any two good people individually will get together and be good on the bike. It takes a lot of time, and most cyclists haven't been on a tandem before, and it's a different way of controlling a bike and working with that other person on the back. And in 2013 was a year of really, I was trying different people out on the bike, and some of them couldn't commit, and I was improving myself, but I wasn't really kind of getting the results I think I knew I could have got, because I was just with a new person. And so it was kind of a bit frustrating, and I wasn't sure if I would carry on or if I could carry on, unless I found a pilot who would really stay with me, and especially as kind of I could see Rio coming up.
Yeah.
You know, it was coming upon me. It still had a few years to go, but I was getting a bit anxious and frustrated about that. But then in 2013, Neil, my coach, so I had a new coach come on board in 2013 after London, who's my coach still now, Neil Delahaye.
Yeah.
He approached Eve. She was domestically riding on her solo bike in Ireland. She'd new to cycling, but she'd come from triathlon. Approached her and asked if she would like to try out as a pilot, and she was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a go. And so then she did a time trial with someone else at the end of 2013, and another partially sighted lady. And then it was 2014, we went on a training camp together, and then that was the rest is history. We then carried on. I think once we did a few races together, and she knew that I wanted to go to Rio, and I had that aim. She was in for it as well, and she wanted the same, and we just both worked.
And what created
together and worked hard.
What would you say created that bond? Was it one of personality and chemistry, or was there something more mechanical than that? That when you were on the bike together, it just felt more fluid and more natural?
Yeah, I think we're both, even though we're both very different people off the bike in a way, personality-wise, we're both so driven, and we have that, I don't know, that tunnel vision and that same goal. We're both so that drive in us, that passion in us is kind of there, and we love the racing. And I think when we're both on the tandem, like I love racing on the tandem, like the speed it goes once you get
really
up and running and two of you working well together, it's just an amazing feeling. And I think she felt that, and she loved it as well. And when after we had a bit of time together and we were able to move efficiently on the bike together and kind of read each other on the bike, I think we both were just kind of going, we could do great things here. We just knew, and I think we both felt it on the bike.
But take me through then. How do you synchronize, bearing in mind that you're partially sighted? You're relying very much on Eve being the eyes, I suspect, for the tandem. Yeah. She can see what's coming and how you navigate that. How do you really make sure that you are totally in sync with her so that you're getting maximum power, albeit facing the obstacles or whatever resistance is ahead of you? I can't quite get my head around how you do that.
It's well, with time on the bike for sure. So then it's that time training together. So when it comes to the racing, and you're not talking as much on the race because you're under so much pressure.
Okay.
I go by feel, so it would be by feeling. I'm quite intuitive, so I've got a good. I'm quite good at reading things without seeing it. So it's how it feels on the bike, and when Eve is putting pressure through the pedals, I would feel that, and so I'm putting more pressure on as well. Okay. When she's out the saddle, I'll be out the saddle quickly, like really reactive. I'm really adaptive on the back of the bike as well. I think good stokers are really adaptive to whatever cadence the bike is doing, whatever whatever happened, you have to be really adaptive, and I think I'm very good at that. And it's really just feeling so as Eve, the pilots would be concentrating on what, of course, the effort they're doing, but also what is ahead of them, controlling the bike. I'm concentrating on my effort and then reading what they're doing in front. So that'd be the difference. It's like being on a simulator where you can feel the movement.
Okay.
Going left, feeling right. You're not necessarily in control of it. It's a bit like that, but but what you're doing through the pedals and your body, you're actually moving that machine together.
So there's absolute trust as well between both of you.
Yeah,
one of
absolute
you is
trust.
going to work against each other. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I can't be hesitant on the back of the bike. It will go, you know, the bike won't move well then, and it could be dangerous as well. So I have to have complete trust in the rider in front. I have to have complete trust in Eve, and I, you know, I have complete trust and you know, she has a great responsibility there at the front. She's in control of both of us.
Yeah.
And as I
Yeah,
say,
sure.
my life at times.
Yeah.
But you know, she does a great job, and she's got us out of tricky situations at times, you know. So I have complete trust, and she has trust in me as well. She has to trust me at the back that I'm not going to do anything on the back of the bike.
So that was the beginning of 2014 that you got together, and then the Summer Olympics in Rio was in 2016. So at what point in that two and a bit year period did you really start to think this is coming together? We've got a chance here.
I'd say 2016 really, but even when we were in Rio and when we were getting ready for the time trial, we didn't know. We were hoping that we'd win the time trial, but we didn't know. We hadn't won a world championships in the time trial leading up to it. The year before we were 5th or 6th, but we had won World Cups on the time trial, but we hadn't come across New Zealand, which were the world championships in the time trial, and they were like a big threat for the time trial at Rio. But we really didn't know, but we did believe, you know. I remember Eve for the warm up in the time trial in Rio saying, I have a good feeling about this, and I said, so do I. We both had worked so hard to it, and that's all you can do when you're, you know. I never focus too much on the goal in sight because I have so many, you know. So Tokyo's next year. I'm not really thinking about that at the moment because I just expel all my energy in thinking about Tokyo. Even if it was in 4 months' time, I wouldn't necessarily be thinking about that. I'll be thinking about the processes leading up to it. And that was the same for Rio. We did everything we could. So all we could do on the day was just do our best and just give everything we could. And we go, you know, we always, in all our races, we hurt ourselves and we give everything we have. We don't want to let each other down or our support network. So we kind of just give everything.
And go on then. So tell us what happened.
So in
2016.
So we raced. Yeah, it's like 2.5 years after being together, but like years and years of work really, from other sports as well. I think led me to that gold. We won the time trial in Rio in the Paralympics. So it was a massive. It was, you know, when we crossed the line and we collapsed, we were like exhausted. We couldn't talk. It was, you know, it was hot. We couldn't put our legs down. We couldn't stand up. But we were both like, relief is one of the emotions we remember. We were relieved that we did it. But when we found out a few minutes later that it felt like a long time later, to be honest with us. Not a few minutes. I don't know if it's a few minutes. It might have been more than 5. We had 4 or 5 good bikes after us in the time trial. And then you go off at 1 minute intervals. So we had to wait for them to come in to find out where we had come. And no one could find out for us because I think the scoreboard was like hundreds of meters away. So my family were there trying to look through their cameras and phones to see the scoreboard, and they said, and I remember my mum shouting out to us, "Gold!" and they were all cheering, and that's when we realised that has to be. But we weren't sure to celebrate until we found out officially. So we had a member of staff go off and find out, and they were like, "Yeah." So that's when we both, like, I screamed and I jumped off the floor. I was 1 minute I was exhausted on the floor, but suddenly I had this just surge of energy from finding out that we had won, and we had the feeling of relief, elation, joy. Just, it was really emotional. A roller coaster. Had so many emotions go through me.
Can imagine.
Just thinking about what you know, all the past really, from the rowing to the cycling that we had together, the highs and the lows that we've been through, and then just the sheer effort of racing that day to get that result and to actually do it and stand on top of the podium was just,
must be incredible.
incredible. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
So few people experience that. It's unbelievable. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
But then that was it. That was the penalty. You didn't need to do anything after that, did you? You could just relax for the rest of your life and live off that.
Well, no, 2 days later we had the road race, so which is my favourite race. Out of all the races we do on the track, we race on the track in the velodrome and then we race on the roads. And when it comes to the Paralympics, we're racing on the track a few days before we race on the road, and we had the time trial on the road first, and then 2 days later we had the road race, which is the longest race in a way. It's like 80 kilometers, and that's, you know, lots of things can affect that result. As you know, the strongest and fittest person doesn't always necessarily win the road race. It's very tactical. There's luck involved, positioning, lots of things going on there. And we're after our time trial, after we had that massive high, I remember going to sleep and we were looking through our messages. We had so many messages through. I slept, you know, with my medal under my pillow. So woke up to my medal there. But the next day we had to think about recovering for our race, which was 2 days later. So it was all focused on that then, and concentrating and making sure the bike was ready, making sure we were ready for that road race. And we won silver.
Silver, and that's incredible too.
Yeah.
Tremendous. It really was.
Fantastic.
But then you have to wait 4 years for another Olympics, or maybe longer, as we'll go on to in a minute. But then, of course, you had the World Championships the following year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So came back from Rio, and Eve said she'd carry on for another year for the World Championships in South Africa a year later, and aim for, which we hadn't got, a World Championship medal. And that's one. And as I found when I first started cycling, 6 weeks later, I went to World Championships and I saw the rainbow jersey, and I saw there's Mark Rohan. He was in our team and he became world champion, and I saw him on the podium, and I saw my opposition on the podium and thinking, oh, I've got to beat them. I'm sure I've got to beat them. Give me a bit of time. And I just wanted that. So then when, Eve said, let's go for a world championship medal a year later, I was like, absolutely, yes. Like, we've become Paralympic champion in the time trial. Let's try and become world champion in the time trial, champions. So a year later, we were raced in South Africa and we won the time trials first, usually. We won that, became world champions in the time trial. And then 2 days later, we won the road race to become double world champions.
Incredible.
So we won both of them, which wasn't, after we won that gold in the time trial, which we were aiming for, we were like, let's go for it in the road race as well, of course. And so we did.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then all you had to do was retain it the following year.
Well, that's it. Yeah, no, it's the hardest bit now. As you've got there, you've got to retain it. So which is kind of harder in a way. You have everyone else moving on and coming up, but again, Eve carried on. Then she was always going to retire after Rio in some ways, but she's carried on. And she said, we had to go and retain it. Of course, we had to retain it in Italy.
What else would you do?
No, what else? Yeah. So we did. We retained both of them in Italy, and they were amazing races. Tough racing, of course, hard to get, and we did. So I was just delighted.
So,
absolutely.
How do you individually and together keep that motivation to guard against complacency? Because you've achieved so much, and it would be easy just to sit back and maybe try something completely different, but to relentlessly keep on pursuing your dreams. What drives that?
Yeah. I think it's just one is love of the sport. We both love it, and I think exercise is important to us anyway. Being active, so we love what we're doing. But that drive, I think, is just. I know we still have that drive. I know a lot of people, like you say, after they become Paralympic champions, world champions, are like, oh, I've done it now, and we're a bit crazy to keep going. But I think we've never really been too complacent. If anything, we're a bit hard on ourselves at times. We're always pushing. We're always trying to just be the best we can be and to push ourselves and improve. And it's amazing that we're still. But Eve won't mind me saying, she's 41, I think, or 42. Oh, next year she will be. I'm 38. I'm going to be 39 at the end of this year, and we're still improving and we're still getting better.
Really.
So it's
Incredible.
Yeah. So it's just, as long as we can do that, I think we'll keep. I will keep going, and I think we just got that drive in us, and it's just something that's inbuilt in us, and it just won't ever kind of go.
And obviously the current situation that we're all experiencing, it's tragic in so many situations. An awful lot of personal loss, a lot of devastation economically and socially as a consequence of that. So it's certainly not to belittle that, but from your own personal point of view, where you've been focusing on Tokyo, I suspect, for so long, and for that almost to be taken away from you, how do you deal with that, and how do you keep yourself motivated?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, it hasn't been taken away as such. It's just been moved on a year.
Okay.
That aim is just moved on another year. I mean, I've dealt with it okay, and I just look at it as so many people are dealing with so much worse.
Okay.
I can still do. I'm lucky I'm a cyclist, actually, even though I'm in Ireland and we weren't able to actually go out on a bike for 6 weeks just until recently. We can go 5k radius from the home now on the bike, so we're able to go out now. But I can train indoors on a turbo, which I do at home a lot at home when I'm based in England. So I'm fortunate that I can do a sport that I still can train in, and I can still do my job. And there's so many other people that are so far worse off. And I just go, it was a bit of a shock. We were looking at 5 months up to Tokyo, and it's changed.
Yes. Yeah.
So you just have to change your training and change your mindset, and go, okay. It's for me, it's like a process again. So it's stepping stones. I'm looking at here and now, and then when the racing comes back, there's no international racing this year either. So I had World Championships this year as well, and they're not happening. So actually, I've got just training for the rest of the year, and that in some ways is kind of going quite hard, because it's good to have races, but I actually love training. So if there's no race this year, there's no race this year. But we will hopefully have time trials on the road here in Ireland, where we'll have something to a bit of an outlet for all the training we've done. But you just change your frame of mind, and you just change the training. But it's only just been changed to another year, so that's fine.
It's interesting because I know that there are always similes brought between sport and business, and they can sometimes be a little bit forced and a bit trite again as well. But what struck me with what you've been saying is there is this persistence. But if I've understood you correctly, it's less about having a long-term vision. It's about getting these short-term goals, achieve them, and then think about where you go on to next. From our perspective, we tend to think about it slightly different. We have a long-term vision and then work back from that.
Yeah.
Have you got any insights that maybe people that are watching that from a business point of view can take and learn, that says, right, well, what is it about sport that helps you achieve what you've achieved, but still keep sight on what an end game could be?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I still have that aim, that long-term aim. It's important to have that, for sure, but it's that process and here and now. I think it's more important. You could lose a lot of energy looking, like I said, too far ahead, and I think it's that positive mindset as well. And you have to have drive, that ambition. You have that team around you is really important. But I think it's that positive mindset of every day of all you're doing, but having kind of small goals for that week.
Yeah.
As well.
And you've mentioned the term process several times, and that's very much a business term.
Right. Yeah.
In sports sense, what does that process look like, and who devises and develops and hones that process?
Well, it's myself really, but my coach as such would have our kind of training plan, annual training plan for the year, and that would have at different times we're working on different things to get us ready to peak for those races. Right. So really, I have an easy job. I'm just following what he's setting us to do. He's telling us what to do, and we're just doing it.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it as clear cut as that? Is he decides and you do, or do you have a discussion about it? And
we'd have a discussion as well, of course. I'd have some input, and if I wasn't unsure, or if I wasn't unhappy, if I was unhappy about something, or I felt like I could improve in another area, or I didn't feel something was working for me, I definitely would have to discuss that through with him. It's communication is really important.
Yeah.
And it's about controlling the controllables. So that's what you're in control of certain things. But when it comes to the race, you know, a lot of it is actually, it's not under your control in a way. It's the outcome isn't in your control. It's usually what you do to get there and what you do at the time. But it's that communication there is really important. It's a teamwork. It has to work both ways.
And that's interesting. What you can control, is that real control, or does it just have to feel as though there's a perception of control?
Yeah, perception of control, I think. Yeah, sometimes you can't. I think you know, you hope and you think about the positive thing where you go, okay, this is, you know, I'm going to have a good session here, I'm going to give everything, but sometimes that's the only control you have. And
yeah,
and that's it. It's not a bad thing not being in control of things. I think I said I'm like quite adaptive, and if things don't work out, it doesn't matter. I think it's actually a good thing in training if it doesn't work out, because it makes you look at it and work through things a bit more. So you know, you learn through more when things don't work out.
mm-hmm.
And that's okay to happen in training. You just don't want that to happen in a race.
Yeah, sure.
But of course that happens as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, in industry, we all try to think that we can plan ahead. We have method statements, risk assessments, but of course life happens, and some things you just have to adapt and you have to deal with it. So if we just start to bring this to a close, Katie-George, it's been great speaking with you. You've had time to reflect now with the delay to Olympics, and please God that you'll go on to have similar success next year over in Tokyo. But is there any insight that you can bring to these periods of reflection that might be of value to the people who are watching or listening to this podcast, either in business or just generally, that they may gain from your experiences and your thoughts?
Yeah, just I think it's a tricky one, really. I try and keep positive and everything. Think about, I don't know, the here and now, where you are each day, and you know, and maybe don't be too hard on yourself either. Praise yourself more. A lot of people are quite hard on themselves these days, but I think it's really important just to enjoy the little things in life. I believe, like the fresh air we have, our health, and you know, your family. That's more important than anything, I believe.
Yeah, sure. And what about the, you know, we in a very small way, we try to support you, but how can organizations help you and other sports in a similar situation to achieve, not only because you win medals, but you inspire people? I don't know whether that embarrasses you or otherwise, but I know that a lot of people, particularly youngsters, will look at you and want to be like you. So how can organizations support you to provide that sort of stimulus for the nation, particularly at difficult times like this?
Yeah, I
money, of course, but
well, yeah. Say that. Yeah, promoting us, you know, and yeah, of course, the money, the financial side, that always helps. Cycling's a very expensive sport, so have a lot of equipment to buy, and unfortunately, you know, that's just part of cycling. We're against countries who do have the top equipment, and I kind of have to compete against them.
Yeah.
And so businesses can really help that way with a lot of sports people, I think.
And if people did want to help you, how can they find out more? I mean, we can put any addresses on our website if it helps, and on this podcast we can put some links. How could people contact you if they wanted to hear more about your story or discuss how they might be able to support you more?
Yeah, so I have a Twitter account, Instagram, and Instagrams. I'll have to probably write it down because off the top of my head, I don't think I know. It's Katie-George Dunlevy.
Okay.
And I think the same for my Twitter and my email address, or even my phone number. Really, I wouldn't mind people talking to me on the phone. So my email is kgdcycling@hotmail.com.
Okay.
So that would probably be the best way to contact
Okay,
me.
well, we, with your permission, we can put those links on this
Yeah,
podcast.
of course. I'm on Facebook as well.
Very good. And of course, if anyone wants to come via us, be more than happy to make that referral. Well, look, it's
Thank you, Brendan.
it's been lovely speaking to you, and I know that Eve, you're currently training with Eve, so please pass on our best wishes to Eve as well. We hope the training continues to go from strength to strength, and we're looking forward to continuing our support of you and looking forward to more success in the future. But for the meantime, I really appreciate you joining us, and I appreciate everyone else joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed this. And please do support Katie-George and others in her situation. It's important for the nation, so please continue support. And for everyone, Katie-George, Eve, and everyone out there, keep safe. Bye for now.
Great chatting to you. Thanks.
And you.
Come to Invennt for the highest R&D tax credit you can claim. We help construction businesses get back millions in tax credits every year. Contact us today for a free review. Thanks for joining us this week on the Construction Big Breakfast. Make sure to visit our website, www.inventt.com, where you can subscribe to the Construction Big Breakfast on all platforms, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a positive rating. Or if you'd simply share it with a friend, that would help us out too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.